Hey kiddos, today we're going to be covering through a virtual online platform of lecture about Buddhism and Hinduism. So these are classic religions from the classical Indian time. So what we've been doing for the last 3 days was really tackling the classical period, right? Empires that created something that was so classic that still exists in today's world. That's why they're called thus the classical empires. So we've been covering Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism, and we're really going to dive into today Buddhism and Hinduism and the difference between the two. This is really important because on your unit exam this upcoming Thursday, these information that you learn from today's class will benefit you a lot to pass the quiz. And also, we're diving into Islam in next unit, and we're going to talk about Islam and Hinduism as well. So it might be a really good way for you to start building some contextualization, background information for the upcoming unit. So here is our lesson introduction. Yeah, wild weekend. Obviously, this is the lesson introductions from last year, so don't worry too much about that. But today we will learn about the basic understandings of two major world religions, Hinduism and Buddhism. And we will use these knowledge from today's class to help us with our investigation of activity. Our objective today is that you'll be able to comprehend the basic understanding of Buddhism and Hinduism. So Hinduism is a branch or a development of an old religion called Brahmanism. Okay, so what is Brahmanism? Brahmanism is the main religion of ancient India. So this is the not classical India yet, but ancient India. During the River Valley civilization, the Indus Valley, right? River Valley civilization, Brahmanism was the main religion of ancient India. And it's centered around this universal source called Brahman, like it was the force, right, during this time. And Brahmanism really centered around these three main virtues that shaped and formed Indian society. The three main core values of Brahmanism was samsara, dharma, and karma. Samsara is the idea that they believe in reincarnation. Dharma means that somebody lived um, the best life they could with the situation they were given in their life. And karma is one's fate. So how does this all relate to one another? How did Brahmanism influence the way Indian society lived? Well, think about this, kiddos. Um, there's a different caste system. There's different class. There's higher class, middle class, lower class. And in India, it was believed that you can't move up and down your class system. Whatever class that you were born, if you were born into a lower class, you are going to stay and live in lower class. There is no opportunity to grow up and grow to and get educated and move up the class ladder. Such things didn't exist in India at the time. So, what does that mean? Well, when you're born into a lower class, you want to do the best you can within that lower class period. So if you are a servant, you live your life as the best servant possible. Then you're going to be doing a good dharma. You're going to have a good dharma because you did the best you could to live your duties in your caste, right? If you were born as a servant or a slave, you become the best servant or slave possible. Then you're going to have really good karma. Because you had a good dharma, you're going to have a good karma. So then if you lived your life as a good servant, you're going to have good karma. And then when you're reborn again, samsara, you might be born into a middle class. The next time you do really well as a middle class person and die, you're going to have good dharma and karma again. Then you might be born into a higher class. See how Brahmanism affected the way people lived, right? So it influenced in a way that people didn't want to get bad karma, because if you get bad karma, you might be born into a lower class. So this made people stay in their social class. There was no revolt. It doesn't matter if you're a slave or a servant. You want to make sure that you have good karma, so you're just going to stay in your place. You're not going to speak up. You're not going to try to revolt. You're not going to try to become something better than you are. You're just going to stay as a lower class forever. And it was a way for higher class to keep them in place, right? So eventually Brahminism evolves into Hinduism, and it's related because of the caste system. Okay, Hinduism influenced India to create this caste system. Like it says in the caste system, you are born into your social class. There is no moving up, and you can only marry people from your same caste. So it's a very different perspective of what we know in America, where we have racial inequality, right? Where back in the day, the people of color could not mingle or go to the same place as the white folks. Well, in India, it's not based on the skin tone, but it's based on your class. So if you were born into the Brahmin, the priest and the teacher class, you're at the top of the top, right? The Dalits, the outcast, these are the untouchables. Those are people who usually deal with waste or dead animals. You were at the lowest of the lowest, right? So like nobody will associate themselves with you, and then you just get divided into a caste system. So what happens if you're born into a Shudra or a laborer? Okay, you live your life as well as you can at the bottom of the caste as a laborer. Then you have really good dharma, right? You did a good dharma, and you'll have good karma. So next time at the next samsara or a reincarnation, you'll be born into farmers, traders, and merchants. And then you keep going up until you reach the Brahmins. Okay, that was the belief of Hinduism, which is very similar to Brahminism. So now we're going to dive into Buddhism, which is another religion that really came about in India during classical period, and it directly challenged this idea of Hinduism. Um, Buddhism is one of the most widely practiced religion in world today. It's based on the teachings of Siddhartha Gautama. He was born into a really high caste system, lived in a castle of his own, basically, in his own little shelter. And at age 29, he left his home for the first time. And when he left home for the first time, he truly experienced what suffering was like. And that's what really got him to meditate and discover Buddhism. So until age 29, he lived in his own little bubble, didn't know about world struggles or hunger, poverty. Then he leaves his home for the first time at age 29. Then he sees the lower caste in the Hindu system for the first time and how hard they live their life. And he started to wonder, why is their life so different from mine, right? And then he started to meditate and started to practice respect for all beings, and that caste system is unequal and it shouldn't exist. And that's what starts the idea of Buddhism. And Buddhism is really centered around this idea of Four Noble Truths. It goes one after the other. So Buddha or Gautama really preaches, number one, you need to accept the fact that life is full of pain and suffering. You can't get away from that. Okay? Life sucks. And there's a lot of pain and suffering. But then he speaks of the second truth. Pain and sufferings are caused because you have desires and lust in your life. If you desire things, then there will be pain and suffering because you're always going to want more, right? And it's always going to cause that suffering. So how do you then escape that suffering? The third truth is you curb those desires. You learn to have no desires whatsoever, that you're content with what you have already, and that life needs to be simple, right? Now the question then becomes, how do you then stop yourself from curbing your desires? How do you stop yourself from wanting something? He says it's by living righteously. And those are the eightfold path, right? You have to know the truth. So you have to know that life is full of suffering, right? But you need to have a right purpose. You need to let go of all your desires and lust. Wanting that new phone, wanting to eat something, wanting that person, you need to just let it all go, right? And then you need to work for other people. Stop doing things for yourself, but to start serving others. And you then, because now you're starting to think about other people, you don't say things to harm other people. And then 5, 6, and 7, and 8 becomes respecting all life, resisting desire, practicing meditation, and controlling your mind, right? So these are all just some teachings from Buddhism itself. Okay, so what you guys are going to do is now in Google Classroom, locate the file called 9.8 Indian Religion Documents. There's 2 documents in Hinduism and 2 documents in Buddhism. You guys are going to read through those documents and then you are going to answer the 4 questions you see on the documents, the historical documents, onto your guided notes. At the bottom of your guided notes, there's an exit ticket portion with 4 boxes. So each box, so the first box will be answering the first question, second box you're answering the second question of the document analysis. If you guys need help, I'll be on Zoom, so I'll see you guys there. Good job today.